Hello everyone and welcome to this new channel, Beat the Denominator. I am Dr. J and I'll be presenting today's video. So today's topic of video for the first video of the channel is a rather funny one. And it's a video in which I ask a question, should you invest in burnt hair? Elon Musk's new perfume. Obviously, none of this is investment advice. But it's a silly question, you may think. Why would anybody think that buying a perfume that may or may not smell well? Actually, there's doubts on Twitter as to whether this perfume would smell well or not. It looks like it wouldn't smell good. Why would anybody buy such a product? Why would anybody even consider investing in such a product? And so the answer to that question partially lies in the US dollar and in the coming drop of the US dollar as it is printed exponentially. But let me delve a little deeper, and that is the topic of this YouTube channel. So, going back to the question, should you invest in Elon Musk's perfume? Well, to answer that question, there's really a thing that you need to ask. The first thing is that will the supply of a perfume grow as fast or even faster than the supply of the US dollar? And it could. It could. If Elon gets into the perfume business and if that's going to be Elon's main point of attention from now on, it could grow really, really, really fast, perhaps as high as the US dollar. And if it does, well, you could say that investing in the fragrance of Elon Musk would not be a good idea. But we know one thing about Elon. We know that he tends to do silly products, but he doesn't overdo them. He doesn't over quote unquote print them. And so we have a few examples in history of Elon Musk. The first example is the Tesla Kila. The Tesla Kila in November 2020 was briefly on the website of Tesla, sold for $250. This is what the product looked like. Of course, like most of Elon Musk's product, it drew the hires of the internet and people were making fun, just like they are making fun now of the perfume. It sold out fairly quickly, and today what do we see about 2 years later? We see that an empty bottle of tequila goes for $325. And by the way, anybody can ask anybody anything they want on eBay, but you can see that this gentleman already sold 3 bottles of tequila. So what you can say here is that, you know, obviously there is some demand for that tequila, even with an empty bottle. So there's demands built in these products. Let me move on. So that was the first silly product of Elon Musk. Another silly product was the not a flamethrower. Actually, Elon Musk really insisted that we call it not a flamethrower, but that was obviously a flamethrower. Back in 2018, sold on the website really quickly, 20,000 units, and it was sold for $500. And what do you find today? You find that 4 years later, this type of product is going for $1,200, right? And that is actually a product that could go as high as $4,000 within a few hours of them listing it. And that's also a used product. So it really makes you wonder what is going on. Is the supply of these products limited enough that these products can actually go up in value? And when you take that into account, you realize, well, maybe it's true. Maybe there's not going to be much supply of those products, and those products will go up in value. So, for example, as far as the perfume goes, Elon claims today that he has sold more than 10,000 units of that perfume, and that may seem like a lot, but actually the flamethrower, he only sold 20,000 units of a flamethrower for the first batch, so we don't really know how many units of the burnt hair perfume are going to be out there. One of the advantages of most of the supply in the physical world is that items in the physical world can be broken, lost, or discarded, right? And that's especially the case with a perfume. That's especially the case with a bottle of tequila. And therefore, it has this built-in mechanism where over time the supply of these goods will go down as people eventually use them and discard the product. So that's the first part of the story. The second part of the story is that you're actually investing in an item that has been linked to the Edison of our time, as I like to call Elon Musk, one of the greatest inventors of our time. This item is linked to him, and there's a lot of funny stories on Twitter as to how this idea came to him. Actually, apparently he burned his hair with a flamethrower and so did the burned hair perfume. But it's very unlikely that Elon gets into the perfume business for the long term, and therefore this is likely to be a collectible, right? A short-term, low-volume collectible item that will not go on forever. And so we are asked with a question. We have an item with some level of desirability, as it is attached to Edison of our time, and a supply that is likely going to be limited and that may drop as that item gets used or broken or discarded. So that is the denominator. And in our question, we have the US dollar. The US dollar is the denominator. And you figuring out whether your investment is going to grow in value or not has everything to do with how fast the supply of US dollar increases relative to the desirability and the supply of the Burton perfume. So it's a very funny thing to think that the US dollar may actually become less desirable down the road than a burnt herb perfume. But let's just dig a little more into this thesis. This is M2. So this is a chart that I plan to reuse in this channel quite a lot. That's my favorite estimate of monetary supply. And we can see how many US dollars are in circulation right now, about $21 trillion in circulation. And you can see, stock market has been crashing for the past 8 to 9 months. Why? Because the Fed has tightened the monetary policy, i.e. they've stopped printing, to use a metaphor, to use a popular metaphor. But we all know that it's most likely a bluff, or at least that is my thesis. My thesis is that it's a bluff and that the US dollar will keep getting printed. And eventually physical goods, physical stuff will retain its value, as silly as the physical good may be. Hence the reason for this video. So what is my expectation of performance for the burnt hair perfume? Well, I don't think it will do as well as a company like Tesla, since this is a Tesla product, quote unquote. I don't think it will do as well as that, and I doubt it will do as well as any growth stock similar to Tesla, or as Bitcoin. Bitcoin, which is the main competition that I believe the US dollar has, which has a limited supply and as well as a dropping supply as people lose their passwords, lose their codes, and lose their Bitcoin. So I think those two categories will do much better. Stocks and Bitcoin will do much better. But the US dollar, I believe, over long term will do worse. So if you decide to just save $100 and not buy that perfume, over the long run, you will likely do much worse. And the same is if you do bonds. So I would place the burnt herb perfume between those two options of just savings, right, and saving cash and investing in growth companies or in Bitcoin. And you gotta add that there are unique risks to buying perfume. For example, holding risks, right? What if you break it? What if you lose it? Low liquidity. How are you going to sell that perfume? I mean, eBay, for example, for the Tesla tequila does not have much supply, so you might have to wait for a long time. And there is an uncertain amount of perfumes that are going to be out there at any point in time. So all of these are disadvantages and unique risks. But like most investments in physical things, which ironically is something that Elon recommends to fight inflation, to invest in physical things. If you buy a physical product, they will eventually act as an edge against the exponential rise in the supply of the US dollar. And this is something that many noted investors say, and my favorite quote, for example, from Charlie Munger, one of the best investors of our generation and then prior generations as well, says, almost any currency, especially the US dollar, will be worthless within 100 years. And I say especially here because he was specifically talking about the US dollar. So it will be worthless over 100 years. My favorite example of that perhaps is a Sears home. Let's look at a Sears home. This was a Sears house from 1911. And in 1911, this house was sold for $788. With labor, if you wanted to have it built, about $1,900 to get a whole house built, right? Here's another one. Back in that same era, a much bigger house, a 5-room house with a porch, right, for $1,700. Actually, it's funny. You can see this house today. How much is this house worth today, for example? Well, $375. That is the exact same house, if you look. right? So why is that? Did real estate go up in value? Or did the denominator increase? Did the amount of US dollars really increase out there? And you can see some people could even argue this is a better quality house than all of the homes we have today. In conclusion, and I hope you are not going to invest in burnt hair. This is a joke. But in conclusion, burn her perfume will probably grow your wealth more than keeping cash in the long run, right? Which is an incredible statement to make. It's very incredible. And what we'll find is that with this broken monetary system, um, we find more and more situations that are so incredible to say. But I do believe that it's an interesting product, and if you're interested in burnt hair and the burnt hair smell, you should definitely take a chance on it and try it out. And worse for worse, you can probably resell it on eBay for perhaps a little more than you paid for it. So this was my first video. Thank you very much for watching it. I hope you see that it was more of a joke, but I hope it shows you where the channel is headed beyond that joke. And I hope to talk about so many different investments that are going to retain their value against the exponential rise in the amount of money stock, of US dollar money stock. So thank you so much, and please subscribe. Thank you.